Almost fell. But it don't matter, cause it's Workout Wednesday. What's going on with ya, big dog? And it is an amazing Wednesday. I hope that your Wednesday is going phenomenal. And if it isn't, don't let what happened at the beginning of your Wednesday ruin the rest of your Wednesday. Speaking of such, for Workout Wednesday, I had to look back at last week. Yes, I was doing one-legged 30-inch box jumps, but then I realized that there was a weakness on my left leg than my right leg. Not as strong as the other. So outside of doing the normal workout, we actually did Bulgarian split squats. This is supposed to bring focus to one of your legs, bringing up the power of both of them so they can be even. If we not even Steven, something leaving, big dog. That's just how it is when it come to working out. No cap, I have no idea where that came from. I do know that if your legs aren't the same strength though, it's gonna cost you in the long run. Just like how you've been playing these cards that have been costing you games. So today we're gonna be going over some commonly played cards, why they are being played, and of course why you shouldn't be playing them if you aspire to be the top of the top dogs. So without further ado, let's jump on in. The first card I want to talk to you about jumps in and out of the Yu-Gi-Oh card format. This card is seen as all-powerful by some, sometimes even bannable, but in this current Yu-Gi-Oh format, it's not as good. Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess has some amazing effects, gaining 800 attack for each monster used for its link material, and then being able to negate a monster effect no matter where it is, hand, field, or graveyard by decreasing its attack by 800. Typically, you're going to get 3 or 4 potential negates with this card, but that's not how it typically happens. One of the reasons why our Bow Girl is costing you so many games right now is because you think you're genuinely going to get all of the negates that Appaloosa provides. Ollie, they think they gonna get these negates, dog. Oh, you're hopeful. Hold on, guys, because Ollie didn't laugh at this. So for some reason, Ollie, you think that you're not gonna laugh, dog? If I was you, I'd get the laughing. Now. Louder. Louder. He's not crying. He's laughing. Squamata told him to laugh. Typically when players summon Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, it starts off at 2400 attack. That equates to 3 disruptions. But to be honest with you, after that first disruption, Appaloosa goes down to 1600 attack, meaning that almost any good Yu-Gi-Oh card can run over it and they can continue with their game. So essentially you wasted X amount of monsters to make a 1 negation Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, and that's not even the worst of it. In a format with Forbidden Droplets and Infinite Impermanence, a player can just activate one of those cards and prevent Appaloosa from negating any times. On top of that, there's a card called Forbidden Chalice that also negates Appaloosa and can be responded to it. Yeah, good luck getting off that Bow Girl. Unfortunately, in this current format, Appaloosa's sole goal is to summon it on your turn to prevent you from being Nibiru'd. That's pretty much where her uses stop, and that's why it's costing players so many games, is because they think that she's the super negate card as when she first came out. Another card is gonna have glue eaters rustling in their jimmies. I gotta say, if you are playing Mystic Mine as a alternate win or burn player, you're doing it wrong. Mystic Mine is actually a fairly good card in this Yu-Gi-Oh card game, being able to activate it on a crackback to prevent your opponent from using their critical effects to stop your board, or even forcing the effect of DPE so you can respond to it or whatever. Mystic Mine is an incredible card. The problem with this is that players are playing Mystic Mine as a deck, being able to use Mystic Mine alongside cards like Wave Motion Cannon or drawing into Exodia. Yeah, these strategies don't work for a reason. The reason why is even though you might win game 1, game 2 and game 3 against a good player is a whole different ball game. And of course, we want to be good players, so we're only going to prepare for the good players. That's where a lot of players get things mixed up. Just because your strategy works against your buddies, no offense to those glue eaters, but they're your buddies for a reason. When we play Yu-Gi-Oh, we have to look over our current competition that we're beating, and we have to look at players better than us. If we're not deck building or building to beat those players that are better than us, then we're not getting better. And that's not very king-like now, is it? So what I'm trying to say in essence, Mystic Mind being used as a card to address boards, Squamata approves for that particular reason, but you playing a Mystic Mind deck, I mean, shit, if Squamata wants you to have a funeral, then it's a funeral that you will have. I mean, it's just how it is. Moving forward, I think we have to talk about the elephant in the room. Those single points of interruptions aren't necessarily really good in Yu-Gi-Oh right now. Now, this isn't a rant about how hand traps suck, as there are some really good hand traps in the Yu-Gi-Oh card game. Currently, if I had to pick the top hand traps right now, Nibiru and Infinite Impermanence would probably take the cake, with Joel and Lockbird being a very good card in specific matchups. But some cards that aren't necessarily as good is Effect Veiler. And there's a reason why Effect Veiler is regarded as not so great where Infinite Impermanence shines. Effect Veiler can only be activated during your opponent's main phase, where Infinite Impermanence can be activated as long as you don't have cards on your side of the field, including the beginning stages or the mid to late stages of your turn. Infinite Impermanence can also be set face down as a trap card and then sprung up during any phase, which gives it a little bit more versatility than Effect Veiler. Infinite Impermanence dodges cards like Utopic Draco Future, Effect Veiler does not, and that's why you probably should consider not playing Effect Veiler. It is a single point of interaction that can only activate when your opponent is building a board, where Infinite Impermanence gives you the versatility of being able to be activated during any phase as well as addressing your opponent's board. But the next hand trap that I have to talk about that is losing you games that players are playing en masse is Ash Blossom in Joyous Spring. I really hate to down on Ash Blossom, as it is a card that is seeing competitive play and is fairly generic. Lots of players love it. The problem with Ash Blossom in Joyous Spring right now is that it's best when you're actually using it on cards that genuinely are a problem. Cards like Shaddoll Fusion back in the day, when Shaddoll was amazing. Ash Blossom is amazing at being able to address that card. Or maybe there is a pivotal search point that your opponent wants to use or needs to get off that you can Ash Blossom and essentially shut your opponent's turn down. Against strategies like Sword Soul, Ash Blossom in Joyous Spring is completely laughable. And I would say, well, that's just against Sword Soul, but unfortunately, Sword Soul is one of the most represented decks in this Yu-Gi-Oh format. On top of that, players are forcing you to use Ash Blossom on cards like Pot of Desires, which isn't necessarily a bad trade-off, but more often than not, their deck is consistent enough to make the board without the use of Pot of Desires, meaning that you probably could have just had Ash Blossom as a card like Nibiru, which prevents their board, as opposed to Ash Blossom to stop them from drawing cards when they, more often than not, already have the board they want. I'm not saying Ash Blossom in Joyous Spring is a terrible Yu-Gi-Oh card. It's actually the only card that I feel on this list outside of Mystic Mind that you still should consider playing inside of your deck. You just have to consider, is Ash Blossom your main form of opponent interruption? Because outside of hitting Fusion Destiny, you're going to have a hard time addressing your opponent's board. Another card that players are still playing for some reason is a Lore of Darkness. Are you stuck in the Dark Ages? I'll give it to... No, I won't include a lore. And now that we're done with talking about how low impact hand traps like Effect Veiler and Ash Blossom aren't as powerful, let's talk about Triple Tactics Talent. This card feels really good when your opponent is playing hand traps, as it allows you to draw 2 cards, snipe your opponent's hand, or snatch an opponent's monster. But the problem with that is that players are really good on their spell and trap cards right now. Some of the better counter cards in Yu-Gi-Oh don't fulfill Triple Tactics Talent activation requirement. Forbidden Droplet and Infinite Impermanence are both spell and trap cards respectively, and while Nibiru the Primal Being does fulfill Triple Tactics Talent activation requirement, typically Nibiru will end your turn, so yeah, I mean, you can draw 2 cards as long as you're pretty much gonna pass your turn anyways. This puts Triple Tactics Talent at a really interesting situation. It makes it a fairly decent going second card, but then why would you play Triple Tactics Talent over a card like Forbidden Chalice or Forbidden Droplet? Those cards not only address the opponent's problematic board, they allow you to skirt around negations, where Triple Tactics Talent in a lot of cases is just another card to get negated. And lastly, a card that just flat out isn't good right now is Crossout Designator. Now, Crossout Designator, in theory, is an amazing card, especially in the mirror match. You can then banish your most important card from your deck, and now your opponent can't use that important card on their turn. The problem with that is that we are in such a diverse format. Unless you're playing Sword Soul matchups all day, which you shouldn't be, Crossout Designator isn't necessarily a card that you should consider playing right now. Crossout Designator is actually healthy for the game, as we can almost ensure that a one deck format will probably never happen again. Now, Crossout Designator may seem really good against some of those high impact hand traps like Droll and Nibiru, but to be quite frank, the reason why players just aren't playing that is because Nibiru and Droll are cards that not only can be played around, but Crossout Designator needs to be opened, as well as your opponent having the card inside of their hand ready to use, and that's just not enough cards to be able to use Crossout Designator to counter. There's just slightly too many variables for Crossout Designator to be an amazing card. I mean, right now, he's just posing as my dad going to get the Forbidden List. He'll be back. He'll get in competitive circuit. You guys will be sorry. He'll come with that milk. He went to Walmart for groceries. And that is all that we have for cards that are costing you games. I want you to let me know, is this helping? Are the cards that I mentioned cards that you've been winning with? And if so, has it been against a non-glue eater? I'm pretty sure you'll be able to answer to me that on Twitch, as I am streaming today at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But if you can't, go ahead and check out these videos, as I'll catch you on the next one.